I'm a 29-year-old woman, and last weekend, I stood next to my 31-year-old stepsister as one of her bridesmaids. If anyone had taken a photo of us that night, they'd probably think we were close, maybe even best friends. Truth is, we've never been close, not even in the early days when our parents first got married. She made sure of that. Our parents got together when I was 15 and she was 17. It was one of those quick remarriages after messy divorces. No bonding sleepovers or heart-to-hearts. From the start, she told people we were family by technicality. I was the quiet kid who liked video games and math. She was into fashion and attention. Our lives moved in different directions, and I think she liked it that way. Now she's a popular interior designer with a massive following online. Everything in her life is curated, white walls, matching gold accents, overpriced candles. Her Instagram looks like a catalog, and she treats it like one too. Meanwhile, I work in it and mostly keep to myself. I make good money, own my condo, and enjoy my life. But according to Kelsey, I've always been the odd one out. She's never said it directly, but the way she talks about aesthetic and vibes makes it clear I don't fit hers. At first, I brushed it off. I thought maybe she was just being superficial, maybe she'd grow out of it. But every year, there was a new comment, a new backhanded compliment. She once told me I had engineer energy while we were at a family party, then laughed like it was some huge inside joke. I didn't even respond. I'd gotten used to her digs by then. The rehearsal dinner changed everything. It was held at a vineyard, the kind with tiny lights wrapped around every tree, and overpriced finger food served on wooden trays. Everyone dressed to the nines. Kelsey wore a white fitted dress that probably cost more than my entire monthly rent. Her fiancé's family had flown in from out of state, and the whole event felt like a performance. We were seated under a tent strung with fairy lights. People gave toasts, told stories, and made jokes. Some were actually funny. Then Kelsey stood up. She had already had at least 3 glasses of wine. Her face was flushed, and her words were starting to drag a little. That's when she said it. Every family has an embarrassment, she said, holding her wine like it was a mic. And we all know who ours is. There was this pause. A full 2 seconds of silence before the forced chuckles started. I heard someone cough. Her fiancé looked stunned. My stepmother turned her head toward me, then away. My father looked down at his plate. I smiled because what else was I supposed to do? I laughed too. But in that moment, something shifted. After dinner, I found her near the restroom, reapplying lipstick in the mirror. I told her that what she said wasn't okay. She just blinked at me and said, "Oh, come on, don't be sensitive. You know I didn't mean it like that." I reminded her I was a bridesmaid, that I'd been helping her plan this wedding for months. She just shrugged and said it was all a joke, that I needed to relax. Then she walked off before I could say anything else. That's when I knew I was done. I hadn't even wanted to be in the wedding. Kelsey didn't ask me directly. Our parents basically guilt-tripped me into it. I handled transportation for her elderly relatives, booked a last-minute shuttle when one company canceled, covered the missing share for her bachelorette weekend when one of her friends bailed. And still, she treated me like a charity case she didn't ask for. Her wedding had to be flawless. Every table setting, every photo angle, every guest outfit, curated and approved. She had a Google Doc for preferred tones and dresses. She made her bridesmaids wear muted pastels, said bold colors would disrupt the visual flow. That was the kind of person she was. It wasn't about love. It was about the optics. And I knew things that didn't fit the image she wanted to project. I knew her fiancé's family leaned conservative and probably wouldn't love some of the not-so-subtle jokes she had in her vows. I knew she once called his mother an off-brand Etsy craft witch after a brunch. I knew her favorite stylist canceled last minute, not because of overbooking, but because she had underpaid and ghosted them. That night I didn't sleep. I sat up, replaying the dinner in my head, the look on my father's face, the way Kelsey said it like it was funny, and how no one stood up for me, not even her fiancé. I wasn't angry. I was clear. I didn't want to yell or ruin her wedding. I didn't want some dramatic showdown. I just wanted her to know what it felt like, to be exposed. Not by accident, but carefully, elegantly. The way she delivers all her cruelty, with a smile. She crossed a line, and I was finally ready to draw mine. Not with fire, but with mirrors. Let her see herself the way I've seen her for years. Let's just say, by the end of her wedding weekend, she'd know exactly who the real embarrassment in the family was. And it wasn't me. The morning of the wedding started early. Hair and makeup started at 7 a.m., sharp in one of the suites at the hotel. Kelsey had a whole glam squad on site, 2 makeup artists, 3 hairstylists, a photographer, and enough food trays to feed a small team of athletes. Everyone was moving around, half-dressed in matching robes, sipping mimosas, trying to stay out of her way. I sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through my phone and pretending not to listen while she read her vows aloud to one of her bridesmaids. She had written in a few lines she clearly thought were hilarious. One of them compared her fiancé's mother's baking to vintage Pinterest fails. I waited until her friend left the room, then casually mentioned that maybe she should double-check that part. His family might not find that kind of humor charming. She froze mid-text. Within seconds, she was digging through her tote bag, pulling out her printed vows, and calling the wedding planner on speakerphone. She wanted to make sure nothing in her vows would be misunderstood. The planner reassured her, but she still rewrote 2 lines. I watched one of her bridesmaids roll her eyes at me behind her back. One of the girls finally snapped at me to stop making her nervous. I apologized, acted surprised, and offered to help however I could. That's when Kelsey handed me her phone and asked me to keep an eye on her notifications. She said she needed to stay off social media that day so she could stay present. 5 minutes later, while she was getting her curls pinned, I snapped a photo of the chaos in the room, clothes everywhere. One girl eating fruit straight off the tray, makeup brushes scattered across the counter. Then I typed out a caption that read "Stressed Bridezilla Energy" and posted it to her story. I took it down after about 10 seconds, but that was long enough. I saw 2 of our mutuals screenshot it almost immediately. About an hour later, I heard her asking one of the bridesmaids if her account had glitched. Something about a weird story that disappeared. No one answered clearly. I shrugged and said I hadn't noticed anything. She was too distracted to press further. Before we left for the venue, I bumped into her future sister-in-law in the hallway. We were both getting tea from the same station. I mentioned offhandedly how funny it was that Kelsey used to call her future mother-in-law basically an outdated Etsy board. Then I smiled and said it must have just been pre-wedding nerves. The groom's sister didn't react much. She just raised her eyebrow, then pulled out her phone and started texting. At the venue, Kelsey was already behind schedule. Her dress was ready, but she couldn't find the steamed veil. She turned to me and asked if I had taken care of it. I told her I thought the hotel staff had done it. Cue full-blown panic. The photographer had to pause to give her a minute to breathe while one of the stylists ironed it out as fast as possible. Right before the ceremony, I overheard her fiancé asking why she looked so stressed. She blamed it on bridesmaid chaos. He looked confused, but didn't push. I stood in the background holding the bouquet tray and smiled politely. During family photo time, I discreetly told the photographer that the groom's side should go first. But the photographer didn't question it and called them up. Kelsey walked over mid-shoot and asked why her family wasn't up yet. Too late. The order was already flipped. The photographer just kept snapping. Right before dinner, guests started noticing something weird on the printed programs. Kelsey's full name was there, but the middle name was wrong. Not just wrong, but funny. Her real middle name is Elaine. The program had her listed as Kelsey Blame McAllister. Not a typo. I switched it when I submitted the program draft to the printer. She didn't check it before it went to print. She didn't notice until someone brought it up during cocktail hour. The expression on her face when she saw it, blank panic hidden behind a tight smile. At dinner, I made sure to be extra helpful. I thanked the catering staff loudly, complimented the entrees, and joked that Kelsey had originally hated the menu but warmed up to it. The head server was standing close enough to hear. Her face twitched for a second before walking away. Later, the groom's aunt came over to Kelsey's table and asked if she had really wanted something different for the food. Kelsey gave some awkward explanation about changing her mind. I watched her squirm through the whole conversation, nodding along with a glass of wine in my hand. By the end of the night, she looked like she'd been dragged through the mud. Her hair had started falling out of the updo. Her voice was hoarse, and she was snipping at her friends over tiny things: missing charger, misplaced gift, lopsided table signage. She snapped at the maid of honor for not keeping her water filled, then tripped over her own dress while rushing to the bathroom. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. I slipped out just before the send-off, walked through the parking lot barefoot with my heels in hand, and got into my rideshare. In the backseat, I opened Instagram one last time to check her story. The screenshots had already been shared in a private group chat by one of her former friends. The first tear in her perfect image had started to spread, and I hadn't even broken a sweat. 2 days after the wedding, Kelsey texted me asking if I had noticed anything weird happening during the ceremony or reception. I told her nothing major stood out, just typical wedding chaos. She sent a thumbs up and didn't follow up. Later that day, she started calling around. Apparently someone had flagged a couple of her Instagram story clips and pulled them into a Reddit thread. I never said anything, but I saw the thread. It had a clip of her yelling at the flower girl for walking too fast down the aisle. You couldn't hear the exact words, but the tone didn't need subtitles. The top comment called it pure bridezilla meltdown. People began stitching it into TikTok duets. A few influencers even reacted with mock wedding advice like Rule 1, don't scream at your flower girl. One of the screenshots from her deleted stressed bridezilla energy story also made it into the comments. Kelsey started reporting every repost she could find. When that didn't work, she began messaging accounts to ask them to take stuff down. No one responded. That night, I spent 20 minutes creating a burner email and left 3 detailed reviews on wedding vendor websites. I made sure to sound like a concerned planner who had witnessed some shocking behind-the-scenes behavior. One florist reposted the review to their story with the caption, "We really tried our best that day." Kelsey's name wasn't tagged, but the timing was obvious. She sent our mom a long message saying she felt like someone was trying to ruin her life. She called it sabotage. I told our mom it sounded like she was just overwhelmed. I said it probably felt worse because she was still recovering from the wedding stress. That seemed to calm things down, for the moment. Then the bridesmaid group chat exploded. Someone hinted that things were being leaked. One girl said she felt like her phone wasn't safe. Kelsey replied with a message that was so long it had to be sent in 2 parts. She told them she was heartbroken and that she felt betrayed. One girl left the chat entirely. I didn't say much, just sent a few hope everyone's doing okay messages and quietly muted the thread. Her now husband, who had been posting couple content regularly before the wedding, suddenly went quiet. He skipped uploading any honeymoon photos and canceled the joint photo shoot they had planned at the resort. Kelsey told our mom he was just not feeling well, but in the background, he had archived their wedding post on his feed. By the 4th day, she started cleaning house on her profile. Old photos got archived. Captions disappeared. Comments were turned off across the board. Her follower count dipped slightly, nothing major, but enough that she noticed. That's when I remembered her stylist. She had used a new stylist for the wedding, someone she praised publicly and called a creative genius on her story. But 3 days before the wedding, she had vented to me that she thought the stylist's taste was weirdly tacky. She had wanted more sleek minimalism and less boho Instagram stuff. I made a second burner and sent the stylist a message that simply said, "Your client didn't love the look, called it tacky, just so you know." An hour later, the stylist posted a TikTok with the caption, "When they act grateful in public and drag you in private." No names were mentioned, but the wedding day footage in the background made it clear. Someone in our extended family group chat dropped the link to the video, said it looked familiar. Kelsey didn't respond to the message, then she stopped replying to the group entirely. 2 days passed. Nothing. Even when our cousin got engaged and posted about it, she didn't react. She called me late at night. I let it ring 3 times before picking up. She didn't even say hello, just started crying, said she didn't understand why people were turning on her. She said she felt like she was drowning. I listened. Then I said, "That must be so embarrassing." She hung up. The next morning, our mom texted me asking what was going on. I told her maybe Kelsey wasn't ready for marriage yet, if this little bit of scrutiny was shaking her up so badly. I didn't say it to be cruel, just let it hang there. She didn't respond at first. Later, I got a message saying, I think you might be right. By the end of the week, Kelsey still hadn't posted anything new. One of her old sponsorship partners posted a carousel promoting wedding planning tools, but left her out. She used to be their go-to example for modern elegance. Now she wasn't mentioned at all. At a glance, everything on the surface still looked clean. But underneath, it was starting to rot, and the people who used to clap for her, they were watching in silence. A week after the wedding, Kelsey posted a black and white selfie with a long caption about taking a break from social media for her mental well-being. Comments were limited, but within an hour, people were already reposting it and speculating. One account said it was because of the wedding mess. Another added side-by-side comparisons of her old content versus now and called it the fall of a curated queen. The photo didn't last. She deleted it by the end of the day but kept logging in. I could tell because her profile activity stayed green, and she liked a vendor's post at 2 a.m. That didn't go unnoticed either. One of her followers screenshotted the like and posted it with the caption, I thought she was healing offline. That was when I decided to send in the wedding video. She had hired a team to film her big day and post highlights. What they delivered looked perfect on the surface, but I had the raw footage. I had copied it from the shared drive when she sent us the bridesmaid download link. I trimmed a clip where she screamed at one of the florist's assistants for mixing up bouquet placement. She wasn't even talking to the actual florist, just some poor teenager placing flowers. I added a timestamp and submitted it to a wedding snark page that had already mentioned her name in connection with the earlier TikToks. By the next morning, the clip was everywhere. A TikTok creator used the audio to make a parody where they wore a bathrobe and yelled into a banana pretending it was a walkie-talkie. The comments blew up. People recognized her voice. Even more started tagging the original wedding vendors, asking if it was her. One of her smaller brand sponsors removed their tag from her recent collab post. She told our mom they were just spacing out content, but I overheard her on the phone saying the partnership had been temporarily paused. The email she read out loud didn't sound temporary. I visited our parents that weekend. Our dad made a joke during dinner that he never knew weddings were blood sports. Our mom told him not to start. I just sipped my drink and acted like I didn't understand the reference. Meanwhile, her husband had been scrolling quietly at the other end of the table. He didn't say much. The next day, he sat down with her and asked why every vendor from the wedding was now posting vague, bitter comments. The stylist had uploaded a photo of a melted eyeshadow palette with the caption, when they say they love it, and then drag you to their sister. The florist had posted a picture of a bouquet with a passive-aggressive caption about ungrateful clients. The makeup artist added a reel of bloopers, where you could hear someone in the background complaining about everything being off-brand. She blamed it all on wedding stress and bridesmaid interference. He didn't argue, but after that, their shared honeymoon photos vanished. She messaged me a few hours later. The text asked if I knew why everyone was turning on her. I said maybe she should think about how she treats people. I didn't add anything else. 3 days later, she invited a few of us for brunch. She said it was to reset the energy and fix things. I showed up wearing a white t-shirt that read, in bold black letters, "The embarrassment has arrived." It was a gift from a friend who saw the rehearsal dinner video. I hadn't planned to wear it originally, but when I saw the brunch was at a public place, I changed my mind. Halfway through the meal, one of her friends burst out laughing and spilled her mimosa. Kelsey turned bright red and didn't speak to her again for 2 days. I found out because another girl posted a story captioned, "Guess someone lost brunch privileges." During that brunch, Kelsey brought up therapy. She said she was thinking about trying it. I told her it sounded like a great idea, genuinely. She stared at me like I'd thrown a drink at her. That same night, her husband's mother unfollowed her main account. It wasn't subtle. She had always left comments before. Suddenly, her name was gone from all the old posts. That sent Kelsey into another spiral. 2 days later, her sister-in-law commented on one of the viral TikToks with the line, "Oh, if you only knew the half of it." The post exploded again. I decided to push it a little further. I used a third burner and messaged a wedding drama podcast that had covered stories like hers before. I sent in screenshots of Kelsey's bridesmaid group chat where she made snide comments about everyone, especially the maid of honor's dress and her cousin's weight. The podcast dropped a blind rate episode that Friday. They said the story was anonymous and fictionalized, but anyone who had been following the wedding drama knew exactly who it was about. The timing, the florist moment, the stylist references, it all lined up. The episode ended with the host saying, "You can't script this stuff." By the weekend, the podcast's followers had jumped by thousands. So had the number of people DMing Kelsey, asking if she was the wedding meltdown girl. She didn't respond, but she did block the podcast account. That only made people dig harder. The week after the podcast episode dropped, Kelsey started getting flooded with direct messages. Most were asking if she was the wedding meltdown girl. Some were polite, others less so. She blocked dozens of accounts. She put out a story saying it was a case of mistaken identity and that people needed to stop harassing her. But by then, the screenshots, voice comparisons, and wedding date timelines were already circulating in fan forums and snark groups. 2 of her bridesmaids unfollowed her quietly. One of them deleted their joint photo from the wedding day. The other removed the maid of honor highlight from her profile and set her account to private. Someone noticed and posted about it. The comment section filled up with theories. Kelsey tried to downplay it, saying they were just doing a digital detox, but people weren't buying it. Her husband finally sat her down and asked if maybe it was time to take a step back from social media. He suggested laying low until things calmed down. She accused him of not supporting her brand. That conversation didn't stay private for long. A mutual friend overheard and later told me they didn't even finish the conversation. They just stopped talking mid-argument and didn't speak again for the rest of the night. That same weekend, her Instagram monetization got flagged. She posted in her close friend's story that her reels had been demonetized due to harassment policy violations. Apparently, the platform had flagged old comments she had left on other influencers' pages, calling their work low effort and cheap knockoffs. Screenshots of those comments resurfaced right after. At brunch with mutual friends, someone asked how Kelsey's husband was handling everything. I said he seemed hesitant about the wedding in general, especially since he called me the night before the ceremony. I didn't add anything more. That was enough. One of the girls texted Kelsey about the comment. Within the hour, she was calling me nonstop. I answered on the third try. She screamed into the phone asking if I was spreading lies. I said, I just answered a question. She hung up without saying anything else. A day later, she posted a story saying she had just left her therapist's office and was feeling hopeful. 2 hours after that, a friend of mine posted a spa photo. Kelsey was in the background getting a pedicure. She hadn't been at therapy. I cropped the image, blurred everyone else's face except hers, and sent it to the same gossip account that had covered her stylist drama. They posted it with the caption, "Some self-care looks different than others." She didn't address the post, but someone from her fan page commented that mental health journeys are personal. The replies were full of screenshots pointing out the time-stamped contradiction. I also left a review for her wedding venue under a new throwaway. I rated it 3 stars and wrote that the venue was beautiful, but the bride publicly berated a staff member in front of guests. A few people upvoted it. The venue replied publicly with a vague, diplomatic comment, but they updated their booking standards page to now include a note about respectful conduct. That same week, a major bridal brand posted a campaign teaser. Kelsey had once hinted that she was in talks to be one of their collaborators, but when the campaign dropped, her name wasn't anywhere in it. A user asked about it in the comments. The brand replied, "We're taking a temporary pause on new influencer partnerships for now." 2 other influencers liked the comment. One of them had previously worked with Kelsey. During dinner at our parents' house, my dad admitted he was tired of all the drama. He said he loved her but found it hard to talk to her lately. Our mom stayed quiet, just kept passing the salad bowl around. That weekend, I got invited to a local charity gala through my company. I wore a gown from one of the same brands that had unfollowed Kelsey. I didn't think anything of it until I saw a notification from her. She had tagged me in a comment on one of my photos. The message was short. Seriously? I deleted the tag and ignored the message. I didn't block her, but I didn't answer either. 2 hours later, she tweeted, "Fake friends thrive on your downfall. Sad world." The replies were brutal. One person replied with a video of her from the wedding, shouting at the florist assistant. Another added the side-by-side of her mental health break post and the spa photo. She locked her account the next day. Her husband booked a solo trip to Colorado. He told his family he needed space to clear his head. Kelsey claimed it was a pre-planned creative retreat. No one believed her. When he returned, he gave her an ultimatum: either take a full step back from the internet or risk losing the marriage. She told him her online presence was her identity. The conversation ended with him moving into the guest room. And still, she logged back in the next morning. 2 weeks after the solo trip, Kelsey's husband moved out of their apartment. He packed 2 bags, his camera gear, and left quietly in the early morning. His sister picked him up and confirmed later that he was staying in her guest room for the time being. She didn't use the word separation, but people around them did. By lunchtime, a few wedding guests had already started whispering about it in group chats. A lifestyle blog that usually covered decor trends posted a short article titled "When Picture Perfect Cracks, One Influencer's Rapid Fall." It didn't name her directly, but it mentioned a wedding-turn-drama spiral, Instagram fallout, and brand loss. The writing was clear enough that anyone familiar with her could figure it out. Kelsey shared the post on her story with a caption calling it completely made-up garbage, then went on a rant across 5 more slides. She accused people of twisting narratives and said she'd be stepping back again, for real this time. She texted me that same day, once then again. By the 3rd message, she had added a long paragraph asking if I knew who sent the video clips to the podcast. I didn't reply. I didn't block her either. I just let the text sit there and kept the screenshots. Later that week, I got an email from a freelance journalist working for a digital magazine. They were putting together a piece on influencer image management and wanted a quote. I didn't respond to the email, but I forwarded it to a friend who leaked it into one of the gossip group chats. The journalist never mentioned me again, but the article eventually ran, and it included more receipts than anyone expected. People started tagging her under it with popcorn emojis. Then the wedding photographer broke their silence. They posted a thread detailing how they had been underpaid, not tipped, and spoken to like a disposable prop. They attached screenshots of messages and timestamps from the venue. Within hours, it was being reposted on wedding forums. I added to it anonymously in the comments. I wrote that I had worked with her at a previous event and saw the exact same behavior: cold, dismissive, micromanaging. People believed it. With everything collapsing around her, Kelsey tried rebranding. She created a new Instagram account under her middle name. She introduced it as a space for authentic wellness and self-reflection. She said it would be more real, less curated, and open to dialogue. Her first post was a video of her sitting on the floor in sweats, pretending to cry into a mug of tea. The caption said something about rediscovering the power of vulnerability. It got picked up within the day by a reaction account. They posted a duet next to her clip, sipping tea and mouthing "I don't buy it." Others joined in. Someone looped the crying part and added laugh tracks. The video was everywhere by the next morning. Then came the official news. Her husband filed for legal separation. Not divorce yet, but the paperwork was submitted. He told her parents directly, not her. Her father called mine to share the update. Our mom texted me asking if I had something to do with this. I told her no. Everything that happened had been triggered by Kelsey's own choices. I hadn't told her to yell at the florist, insult the stylist, or humiliate me at the rehearsal dinner. Around the same time, I got a job offer from a tech firm in a nearby city. Fully remote, better pay, shorter commute when needed. I accepted the same day. I started boxing up my condo, sorting through things I hadn't touched in months. Kelsey texted again when she heard I was moving. She said we needed to talk. She said she was sorry. She said she didn't want to lose me too. I didn't answer. The day before my move, she called. She was crying before I even picked up. She asked if I thought she was a bad person. She said the internet hated her, that her marriage was slipping away, and that she felt like everything she built was turning against her. I waited a moment. Then I said, "You called me an embarrassment. You just didn't expect me to remember." She didn't speak again. A soft breath, then silence. The call ended without a goodbye. I packed the last of my things that night and left the next morning. As I settled into my new apartment, I checked her profile one last time. She had posted a single quote over a white background. Sometimes you lose yourself. Sometimes someone helps you find the mirror. I logged out. I didn't need to check again. 6 weeks after I moved, I had fully settled into the new apartment. It's a quiet neighborhood 3 hours from my hometown. I work remotely, keep my phone on silent most of the day, and ignore the family group chat unless someone specifically mentions me. The Kelsey hasn't popped up in it much. My mom still sends occasional updates, but I don't ask for them. Her authentic wellness account flatlined. The first 2 posts still sit there untouched. No comments, no engagement, just a handful of pity likes from old followers. She tagged 2 minor skincare brands in one of them, and neither reposted. A few days later, she followed 10 different mental health influencers. No one followed back. Our parents drove to visit her last weekend. They tried to have a non-confrontational family talk, whatever that means. It lasted 15 minutes before she started crying. My mom called me that evening. She said Kelsey had asked why I wasn't there. I told her I wasn't invited, which was true. She didn't respond to that. Through our cousin, I heard she's actually going to therapy now. Weekly sessions. Her therapist apparently told her she had performative empathy and relied too much on image instead of actual emotional work. Kelsey shared a vague post about doing the inner digging and unlearning the noise, but turned comments off immediately after. The divorce papers arrived a week later. Her husband filed officially. No public post, no statement. Just a quiet message to family and friends saying they'd separated for good and asking for privacy. His number changed the same day. Kelsey posted a text graphic on her story saying, "Sometimes you become the villain in someone else's healing journey." No context, just the quote. Someone shared it on a reaction page with a caption that said, "Girl, you were the villain." She turned off her DMs. Out of nowhere, her ex-husband messaged me. Short, polite message. He said thank you for being honest the night before the wedding. Said it helped him see things more clearly, even if he didn't act on it right away. He hoped I was doing well. That was it. No drama. I didn't reply, but I archived it. The florist, the photographer, and the stylist from her wedding all saw small boosts in their followings after the podcast and viral clips. I tipped each of them off to a few media and influencer contacts I knew through work. They didn't know it came from me. They just started getting a few extra bookings and features. Quiet wins. My parents came to visit me the next weekend. We went out for dinner. My dad said Kelsey finally gets it now. I didn't say much, just raised an eyebrow and nodded. He looked relieved. 2 months passed. No contact from her. Then one morning I got a voice note. She didn't cry in it. She just spoke slowly like someone trying not to trip over their own words. She apologized for the embarrassment comment, said she was sorry for everything that came after, said she realized how much damage she'd done, not just to me but to herself. I didn't reply. I replayed it once, then left it on read. A week later, a letter arrived. Handwritten. No stickers, no dramatic font, just plain blue ink on lined paper. It was awkward, full of crossed out words and uneven lines. But it was real. She admitted she had been cruel, that I had been an easy scapegoat because I was stable, quiet, and didn't compete with her shine. She said it made her feel more in control, and that now, she was starting to understand what it cost her. She didn't ask for forgiveness, just said she wanted to finally tell the truth. I wrote back. I didn't say I forgave her. I thanked her for finally owning what she did. I wrote that humiliation doesn't build character, but it does strip away the performance. Sometimes that's what reveals who people really are underneath the polish. At the end, I quoted the same line she said at the rehearsal dinner. Every family has an embarrassment. But the real embarrassment isn't the one you mock. It's the one who forgets her humanity for the sake of optics. Then I folded the letter and dropped it off at the post office on my way to grab groceries. I haven't heard anything back since. And for now, I think that's okay.